Today's episode of This Week in Startups is brought to you by MailChimp. Manage lists with up to 2,000 subscribers and send 12,000 emails per month for free with MailChimp. And by Sourcebits. Visit www.sourcebits.com to begin your mobile app development journey.
Hey everybody, it's This Week in Startups. We're here at CNET Studio in San Francisco with Erik Lanigan reading the news and Cyan Banister, angel investor extraordinaire and entrepreneur, chiming in. Stick with us.
That's what it's all about, man. They said money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you. Yeah. Money is the root of all evil. What? Funny how it feeds my people. Yeah. We ain't gonna live like equals until we get the money, spend the money, and defeat you.
Yes. Hello, everybody. It is Jason Calacanis, and this is This Week in Startups. We're here at the CNET Studios. You probably actually have seen the show Buzz Out Loud in the studio. What else do you guys tape in the studio?
We do, on top of Buzz Out Loud today, we did Reporters Roundtable. My name's Stephen Beecham, by the way, producer for CNET TV. Yeah. We do Reporters Roundtable, Android Atlas, which is all about Android, and we also do Crave, which is all about funny, gadgety, cravey things. And Dialed In, which is a cell phone podcast. We do a whole bunch of shows. There's a show here every day, so come check out CNET TV live.
Absolutely, and thanks to Rafe Needleman and Jim Lanzone for hooking me up again. I mean, I've been up in San Francisco preparing for the launch conference on March 7th and 8th, and boy, that's a lot of work, but I'm seeing a lot of great startups. And actually, Cyan, you've been at all the conferences I've ever done, I think, as a judge.
Yep.
And
as a participant on stage.
Yeah, that's right. Zivity launch, I forgot that.
Yeah.
Was that the TechCrunch 40 or TechCrunch 50? It was the first year
40,
we did? 40. It was the first one?
Yeah.
Wow, that is so old school of you. That was when Mint and PowerSet, who else was in that class? Go Trip It?
I just remember Mint.
Mint, yeah, they were exceptional. I actually saw the what I think will be one of the top 3 or 4 candidates, and it's Mint-like in its wow factor. And so you're an angel investor as well as Zivity, and you've done dozens of angel investments, I think.
Usually about 10 to 15 a year.
10 to 15 a year. Yeah. Wow, that's extraordinary. And some of them we would know would be?
Gosh, there's a lot that I can't talk about right
now. The latest.
Let's see here. Some that you would know, maybe Topsy.com.
Yep, sure.
That's probably one of our proudest investments. A lot of our investments have actually exited recently. So,
oh, wow. Fantastic.
I just say Topsy right now.
Yeah, cool. And Erik, you're here. Now, you were working for Leo for a year or two.
Yeah, about a year and a half.
You guys had a little bit of a breakup.
Yeah, you can say that.
On the webs.
You can say that.
Saw on the interwebs, and we've known each other for a year or so and talked in the past, and I was like, hey, I'm up here. You basically have no job now. You're out on the street,
correct.
Homeless, whatever it is. And I thought I'd throw you a bone and say, hey, why don't you read the news for us?
It sounds great.
I really appreciate it. And boy, I mean, after the breakup with him, you seem to have become incredibly high profile.
I know. I didn't know where all these people were. Suddenly everyone's talking to me. We've got people emailing me and saying, hey, where's your show go? I liked it. I'm like, wow. Well, thanks.
Hey, so before we get into the news, let me just take a moment, a pause for the cause, to thank one of our sponsors, Sourcebits. Sourcebits is a leader in developing mobile apps and software design. Their mantra is design-led engineering, and they're actually backed by Sequoia Capital, the same people who backed YouTube, Google, Atari, all those other great companies. And I met the guys from there, great guys, working really hard. They've got a great team, and they count Hershey's, GE, Coca-Cola among their clients, and they've done a lot of popular apps. Actually, the Nightstand app that you're probably using right now on your phone is by Sourcebits. And, people are busy now, and mobile apps are hard to make. I've been making them. You really need help and finding developers. That's probably the number one thing that the startups you invest in, that's their number one pain point, isn't it?
It's developers, product managers.
The hardest thing. And mobile is particularly hard.
Yes.
Because it's so new.
Yep.
And that's where Sourcebits comes in. Everybody go check out Sourcebits to begin your mobile app development journey and tell them your Uncle Jason sent you. Okay, Erik.
Okay.
Here you go.
So SOPA and PIPA. Why don't we start there? Wednesday was the big blackout. Wikipedia was blacked out. Reddit, boing, lots of sites. Now some senators, some supporters, some House people also are saying that they're going to stop supporting it. And some are saying that they're just going to delay the vote indefinitely. Some are saying it's dead. Some are saying it's going to come back even worse. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, well, first off, well done, internets. I mean, and Reddit, it seems like you have to give credit to Reddit for all of this, right? I mean, nobody seemed to be willing, none of the commercial sites at least, seemed to be willing to actually put a flag in the ground and say, we're going to turn off on this particular day. There was buzz about that, but Reddit just said, hey, we're picking a day, January 18th or something, right?
So was Reddit the first? I didn't know that because I know Wikipedia was the one that I saw everyone was talking about in the news. Like, that's what went mainstream, I think. But
yeah, and when Wikipedia stepped in and said, we're going to do it, boy, that really, I think, changed the dynamic and made people super aware. But it felt like it was going downhill after that. What were your thoughts, Cyan?
So I think it's really great that the internet stood up for this. But one of the things that we should do as a constitutionalist is believe in our Constitution.
Yeah.
And I don't think that this is going to fly. And but I do think the government should fear the people, and the people have spoken. That's good.
It does seem like there's a generational shift going on where the older folks who don't understand how the technology works are intent on trying to stop it, and they're not capable of doing it. I think they're not capable of doing it.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it's a real turning point for society that the internet and the people who are younger and more pro freedom of speech, and just pro technology are not going to be silenced by the government. It's almost like our own Arab Spring in a way.
And I found the choice of rhetoric actually pretty interesting from both sides. I was surprised that what Google did say, what Wikipedia, what some of these guys did say, was kind of vague. Yeah. It was kind of infographic oriented. It was join the thousands, join the millions, join the in the support, and not really saying what was bad about it, what it does.
Right.
And on the opposite side, I pulled out a quote here from Senator, I think it was Senator Leahy, that's the guy, saying that, you know, he thinks this is irresponsible, the protests are irresponsible. I think Chris Dodd, who was a senator, now the MPAA chief, are saying that. And they're blaming it still. They're saying that people, these web guys, these internet heads, just don't want to admit that there's all this piracy going on in China and Russia, and this is literally what he's saying here.
Yeah, well, how do our laws affect what happens in China and Russia? I mean, that's sort of the goof. This is an American, law. This is not a law in China. We can't set law in China. And our only choice is really to turn the internet off or prosecute individuals.
And I'm worried that when you see the senators who are sponsoring both of these bills saying that they're going to come back in even greater force, I think they don't really realize what the message of the protest was. Yeah. They think it's about just people wanting to steal and not believing that it's right to pay for content. And they don't realize that all the Wikipedia protests, Reddit, had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, I mean, people want to be able to build tools that are open and let you use them any way you want. I mean, this is the equivalent of the government saying Volvo and Toyota are responsible for how people drive their cars. They're not. People are going to rob banks and drive drunk and crash into things and kill people, and it's a tragedy and it's terrible, but it's not the car manufacturer's fault.
That's right. And I think it was an attack on fair use more than anything. Fair use and the whole innocent proven guilty. You can't just file a complaint and the person's gone off the face of the internet, Yeah,
and also you had Mega Upload, I guess, got round up today, or was it yesterday, and had their site seized. And they're from New Zealand, and their servers are in a different country. So
yeah, I'm not even sure. They said they got arrested. Was that? Are they in the U.S.? They arrested him here?
No, they arrested him in New Zealand, and they're coming here. And it's interesting. It feels like Mega Upload is Dropbox, but so there must be some pieces of this that we don't know. Like maybe Mega Upload was seeding the stuff or putting in movies or something. But it seems like their business was the sort of clever business of, if you want to download faster, then pay us. And people put stolen stuff in lockers that are open, unlike Dropbox, where Dropbox you really can't make a directory and say this is open to everybody. So Mega Upload sort of operated a little bit differently, but supposedly they were making a lot of money. They just rounded all these guys up. If this had, I wonder if SOPA was around and when Chad Hurley and those guys had, done YouTube, would they have even been able to get YouTube funded?
I doubt it.
Right.
Seriously doubt it.
The whole concept would be illegal because it
Right.
attacks fair use. Just like how now, if you upload any video to YouTube that includes even a YouTube video, that
Right.
it could be Creative Commons, it could be anything. If it's in their database of things to check against through that automated content search
Right.
system, it'll pull it. And there's no human to look at that and say, well, it's fair use. It's not robbing the money from them.
Yeah.
It's augmenting it. It's commenting on it. It's
Yeah.
whatever fair use is intended to do.
Right.
And without having that oversight, you've got to do it automated. That's what we have to avoid.
It's fascinating. I saw an alert today that Mahalo had uploaded a video that was owned by Mahalo. Like sometimes you'll upload your own videos and it will make a mistake. The YouTube sort of content matching will be like, oh, you've stolen this content from Mahalo. So if you have like two channels, we have a guitar playing channel and then like our main channel. So they were uploading like the same guitar teaching video to both. And it reported
stole it from the other.
Yeah, and
That's
it's like,
funny.
oh, you're stealing from yourself. All right, next story.
Okay, so how about the Apple textbook announcement? I think that was
that's
earlier this week.
fascinating.
It's really interesting because I actually I don't think that this is actually making Apple look better in any way. This is Apple's initiative to make textbooks much cheaper for start. They're taking normally $75, $50 textbooks. They're making them $14.99, and they want to put these on iPads. I've read some very interesting analysis of this. First of all, you can't, if you make a book. Well, I should step up. I should back up a second. They also made a Mac-only application called the iBooks Author that is sort of like Keynote. It's sort of a combination between Keynote and Pages, and it's to make these books. If you make a book using that software, you can only sell it through Apple, and they have to approve it.
Right.
And so are they going to be censoring based on speech? Are they going to censor based on quality? Who's going to be this editorial review for textbooks? It's this whole weird thing. And the other question that I'll pose to you guys is does this even has a chance at being the future if the future of textbooks and learning and education, all these lofty goals and ideals, if we're just giving it to iPad only, Apple only, and replacing durable hardback textbooks with $500 textbooks made of glass in schools? Does that even work?
Yeah, it doesn't seem fair that it's Mac only, and I don't think schools are going to go for it or publishers. And we were debating on the TWiST list, the members of this community who listen to this show were debating on the email the terms of service. And the terms of service seem to state if you give it away for free, you can put it on other platforms, but if you charge for it, it can only be on this platform. A little bit too draconian, and I think this means somebody should create a platform that lets you publish to all of them. And I think there are some startups. I think Chegg is actually the reseller of books is coming out with their own platform, and a couple of other people have their own publishing platforms for this. But I don't see the textbook companies wanting to embrace taking out all that profit too. It doesn't make sense.
Well, you have something to say?
I just think that Apple's going to back down from this. I don't know if you remember the controversy with the apps where they wanted a cut of all of the revenue on the apps, and they had to back down from that. I think the internet will rise up on this one as well, and they're going to back down.
Because here's a weird thing, right? I mean, this is education, this is learning, they have all these very lofty ideals. If you watch the video they made, it's highly emotional. It's that emotional appeal to the future. This is our children. This is learning. And then, so do we want a memory stick of textbooks? Do we want an HD DVD, a Betamax of textbooks? It's going to be locked to one proprietary platform and will not carry forward the way that books naturally do?
Yeah, it seems like Apple will try to get away with as much as they can, and then let's see if the market sort of pushes them. I mean, you used to have your own. They used to not support MP3 as an example, right? It was only their proprietary format, and then they eventually caved in that way and let you do MP3 as well. So I don't think it's going to fly, and
I agree. I think they try to see what they can get away with.
Yeah,
and see how far they can go.
They also this sort of, now that I'm doing a lot of app publishing, it is really cumbersome to wait for Apple to approve your apps. And like we have one app that's been 2 months, and like 3 or 4 times we've had to submit it. It's a video game walkthrough, like guide. Like, here's how to solve this video game. And they keep saying, like, well, you don't own the video game. And I'm like, well, it's educational, and that's fair use. And YouTube will give you actually the benefit of the doubt and be like, okay, you can publish it, and then somebody can file a claim. And, of course, nobody files a claim because it's fair use to teach somebody how to do something. And Apple won't let it through because they're like, well, this isn't your content. It's like the video game is somebody else's. And we're like, okay, but open the App Store and look, there's 100 other apps doing the same exact thing.
Yeah, and so are we replacing the Apple with the Texas School Board? Is it just the same thing? Instead of the Texas School Board voting on all the textbooks for the country, it's just Apple. Just who are these people at Apple just arbitrarily deciding the curriculums?
And does this mean you can't put a book into the App Store? Does it have to be in the bookstore?
That's a good point.
And so a lot of people are producing books and putting them as apps. And so what's the line between what's an app functionality and a book functionality? I want to be in the App Store where everybody goes. I don't want to be segregated to this bookstore. And so that's another problem I think they have. And also, how on earth are they going to manage the approval of all this stuff? I think their approval process is to make sure it's not broken and stolen content. But in textbooks, are they going to be checking like who's the author of this and who owns the IP? I mean, what is the review process for? Just to make sure it breaks or it doesn't break? I don't understand why they have to review everything.
And to me, this kind of seems like Apple at its worst. I mean, if we with the wanting to control everything, lock everything in. I mean, if Microsoft had done this, if Sony had done this, we'd laugh at them and call them, foolishly greedy. They'd say, well, no one's going to go into their closed platform and just only textbooks can go through them and so forth.
But Apple's beautiful.
But it's beautiful. And
yeah. Although it precludes the possibility of installing these books that you author for that multimedia platform onto like an OLPC or onto like a tough book, like $100 cheap tablet. It has to be an iPad, and it's glass. It's going to break if you drop it.
And why can't you just save it as a PDF file if you can put it into one of these formats? I mean, I understand some
HTML5.
animations or HTML5, and I bet you if you build a tool that allows you to publish to the Apple Book tool, they're going to fight that as well. Just like they were fighting some of the people who had software to automatically make, iOS apps.
Adobe Air and Flash, rewrap it in the native code.
Right. Interesting.
So let's see. What would be a next good story? How about the Facebook IPO?
Yeah.
Rumored to come in May. What do we think about that? It's probably going to be the biggest IPO in tech history, it looks like.
It's a juggernaut, and I was out to dinner last night, and I know you must know a ton of people who are banking on this.
I'm personally banking on this.
Oh, really? Did you buy a lot of stock in the secondary market?
Pre-secondary, off of second market.
Off of second market.
But from an early employee,
Yeah, wow. And so a lot of people in the Valley have a lot riding on this. There's nothing that can derail it at this point. I mean, they're a juggernaut. And it seems like they've held back on monetization so much that if they have any kind of, if there was a recession all of a sudden, they could just add more advertising to the main column. It seems like they've saved so many bullets of, monetization. I think they've throttled their actual revenue and earnings.
Let's see. The IPO is going to be 6 times bigger than Google's. Do we think is that valued? Is that a rational valuation of the company's earning potential?
Well, they have. In terms of the amount of time people are spending online, it's pretty extraordinary how much time people spend on it. But communications platforms tend to have that. And now with music being on the platform, it's sort of like Pandora having a large number of minutes per visit doesn't exactly translate into revenue. Google might have a short amount of time for your visit, but you just clicked on an ad that made them 78 cents or something. So those statistics around who has the longest site visit versus who gets the most amount of clicks and what's the intent. I mean, when you're searching, your intent is very, very
targeted.
Targeted, yeah. You have a lot of intent. When you're on Facebook, what's your intent? It's just like I'm checking.
What your friends up to?
Yeah, you're just sort of checking. It's not like you're like I need to buy something. I need to, purchase tickets to an event, or I need to research something like a car.
You think Facebook will actually get into the search business?
That's a lock. And I think that they actually have it done already. And I think Google launching their Google Plus into search was a way to just get it out the door before Facebook launches their search engine. But clearly, they could have. I mean, you already see it a little bit when you start typing in somebody's name. You're typing Lady Gaga or something. It's like, oh, here's like the Lady Gaga page, and here's this group, and that automatically filling in the search box with suggestions, sort of the instant features of it. Well, why wouldn't that include search the web or other sites?
Well, yeah, I think Zuck's whole intention of Facebook is that it's the one place you go to.
Right.
So that you don't go to Google and you search, and you don't go to all these other places. You just go to Facebook.
Sort of the ultimate web portal.
Correct.
And many people have said that it's like AOL. It's like going backwards in time to having a closed network like a CompuServe or having your little friends in this group. Here's a couple more statistics. So at a valuation of $100 billion, that would place them larger than McDonald's, which is 95, bigger than Amazon, bigger than Disney. The Walt Disney Corporation is only $61 billion. Do we think Facebook is that much bigger than Disney? That seems like there's got to be a bubble there that's going to burst eventually.
Yeah, I mean, that people are basing their valuation on the massive growth and the incredibly high margin. I mean, Facebook's got a fixed cost to their business. You know, they could just stop hiring people. They could probably run the business with a third as many people as they have, and they would just have this ridiculous margin. And that's what some people have argued Google should do, is stop trying to build all this incredible stuff, stop hiring so many people, have a smaller footprint, and just have massive, massive earnings and just squeeze every penny they can out of the search business. But they'll grow into that valuation. It is, I think, if they have $2.5 billion of revenue, $3 billion worth of revenue, especially, I'm not sure what it is.
I think it was like 4.
Is it 4?
I think.
Yeah. And, oh yeah, I was thinking about the 9-month number. So if last year there was $4 billion and it's $1 billion in profits or something, or $1.5 billion in profits, I mean, it's a pretty amazing business. Is it worth 100 times the earnings? Well, if next year they make double the earnings, triple the earnings, well, then it's only 30 or 40 times next year's earnings, and it starts to get into reality. And most of the companies out there are trading at 10 to 15 times earnings. So it's too high, yes, but it's a high-growth company.
And so how do you guys think that this will compete with Google+? Because Google+ is also in the news. They just added, well, they're always adding new features. They just recently added video status updates. Interestingly, it bypasses YouTube, so it's posting a little video update, although it's not going to YouTube, even though many people have
YouTube accounts.
Under
the same name. Yeah.
And YouTube has always encouraged people to post a video blog to YouTube, so kind of odd that Google would be going around their own massive video.
I guess they don't want to have two different experiences. I guess sending you over to YouTube and then pulling you back into Google+. But I wonder if they're using all the YouTube infrastructure. And they'll probably have an option, just check this box and put it over there. But
it seems like an odd fragmentation, doesn't it? Because YouTube is one of the great things about YouTube has been that it's like the world's, like anything you can search for, everything that ever existed is on YouTube, except not these status updates.
People don't want to make video status updates.
Who wants to watch them? I think people want to make them. I don't think anyone wants to watch them.
I think we've seen many companies like this try and fail.
Yeah, I mean, Loic tried with Seismic over and over again to do video comments, and Loic's a brilliant guy and super smart. And I remember when he was telling me about Seismic, and we were having actually Thanksgiving dinner together, and I was like, I don't think most people have a hard time, writing a salient comment, let alone putting on makeup, setting up lights, getting a good microphone, and giving a performance of their comment. Like, most people just don't even have the ability to do that in text.
Well, not only that, the audience doesn't necessarily want to sit there and look through comments on a discussion and listen to every audio clip.
Yeah,
exactly. Think how long it takes just to run your eyes down a comment page. Now imagine if that was a 5-minute commentary video per comment. No one would ever get through the first one.
I remember also like the people who were doing. I mean, Seismic is really an interesting moment in time when he, that year or two that he was trying, and I give him a lot of credit for trying. I wonder, like who those people were and why they were doing it. Like it did get a little bit of a community going there, and they were like. It was a very weird experience because you'd have this one person comment and the other person would be like, I watched your video and here's what I think. It was almost like some old like ham radio, like, yes, that TechCrunch story was incredible, over. And then the other person, I disagree with what MG Siegler said about it, over. And it's absolutely not what people wanted.
Like truck drivers.
It was like truck drivers on CB or something commenting while, on the interwebs. Yeah, it just didn't work. But it does seem like people will use the Hangouts feature, and I wonder why. Maybe it's because Hangouts, you have 5, 6, 7, 8 people having the discussion there, and it's for the benefit of those people in the discussion, not the people reading it afterwards. Like I was in a discussion, like when Hangouts first came out, I saw Michael Dell is in a Hangout, so I'm like, okay, I'll join that Hangout. Click it. It's Michael Dell on the treadmill. It's like Michael Dell's like, yeah, I'll take any question from anybody. And I'm like...
multitasking.
I'm like, you're the CEO of a public company. Like, what are you doing? He was just screwing around because he was like really into it. And he's got like everybody in the company using Hangouts. And, he's doing it on his... And he's taking questions. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, what are you doing? Like, this makes no sense. But
It'd be a little uncomfortable.
It was sort of weird. It was like, but then the other people seem to be actually using them as a replacement for Skype, which that's actually kind of real. Like, hey, call me. So I don't understand why they don't have. They do have Gtalk and they do have voice over IP. Why isn't that what they're doing in Google Plus?
It's a good question. Yeah, Google Plus seems to have recreated a lot of things that they already technologies that they already offered in various other
forms
services. Yeah.
Well, I think that's a general problem with Google. You know, they seem to have these silos that operate independently. Like they bought Slide,
right?
And then Slide, developed all these really cool things, but then they wouldn't advertise it, market it, or integrate it.
And what was that about?
And then they just shut them all down. I think there's like one Slide
Disco. There was like a group me competitor.
Disco's gone. I think the only thing that's left is prizes.org. I think that's it.
It was very weird, and it's like, I guess that's pre-Larry Page saying, let's put more wood behind each arrow, but it was I think that their conversation there is something like, we should add this to Google+, and then people going, I think we did that already. Did we do that? I think somebody in Building 7 or Building 6 did that.
Someone maybe we acquired a few years ago.
I don't know, let's search Google. Google Skype competitor, Google... GoToMeeting competitor.
Oh yeah, we have 5 of those.
We do have 3 of those projects going on. But I mean, that's sort of how, they've been paranoid. This is, my understanding of it is, they're paranoid that they don't want to become the next Microsoft, and they feel that not having a management structure and just letting everybody go crazy and just do whatever they want means they won't have this, draconian. We're going to roll over every competitor, put all these features into one product. And who cares, how people feel about that. And then they have this gift of Facebook does that every day, where they just add every feature, and they don't seem to have a conscience about it. They're not thinking like, oh, we're adding check-ins. How is that going to fly with the Foursquare community? Or, they're just, well, that's a good feature. We'll add it. Boom, who cares? Move on.
And the whole Google Plus concept has always struck me as an odd venture for Google, because at their core, they're kind of a content aggregation company, right? That's what a search engine does. It aggregates, it pulls together the world's information. Isn't that what their motto is? But Google Plus tries to be a host, tries to be a content host. It's the only place this stuff exists is on Google. It brings people in. It doesn't make its stuff available, or maybe it does, but Facebook and others choose not to use it. So it's not. It seems antithetical to the open principles of the classical web that Google is based on. So do you think it surprised me first that Google is being a content host in that manner, like a Facebook,
right?
And also that there seems to be changing the model. Instead of looking for stuff,
they're a content company now. I mean, it's pretty obvious that they're a full-blown content company. They may not be the New York Times or CBS, CNET, and they're paying content providers to be on their platform exactly. But if you look at YouTube, I mean, YouTube doing this huge advances to all content creators, locking them in with exclusives, according to the stories I've read.
All kinds of Hollywood deals going on.
Yeah. I mean, where's the line between being a content producer or not? If you pay content providers or you pay artists to make content and you publish and distribute that content, then you're a content producer, I guess. And they've had this philosophical, we're not content producer. That was
changed. From Building 3, though.
That was Building 3's opinion. I mean, when you invest in startups, do you think, my God, this is just, because almost every startup starts with this, sort of big vision, small steps. Do you just think, my God, this is going to be knocked off? It's such a good idea. It's just going to be added to Google or added to Facebook.
Of course, you're always afraid of that.
Right.
But what you're banking on is that a small, nimble team can actually outperform a Google or Facebook.
Right.
And that they might have a chance. And so you're basically going to see if they can do that.
So it's just it's a sprint to see if their focus and their nimbleness can beat the big, slow Facebook or Google.
I admit I've turned down some deals before because I said, this is just a feature on Facebook.
Right.
But some other ones I've said, I actually don't think Facebook could probably pull this off well.
Right. And it's just because of a focus issue?
Focus.
Yeah.
Correct.
More focus on the entrepreneur having more focus, and Facebook just not having enough focus.
Well, Facebook has some pretty good focus in certain areas.
Yeah.
They really do. But I just think that, when you have a small team of 10 people and that's all they're thinking about, and they're not thinking about all of the other issues that go on with Facebook, like scalability, privacy, and all that stuff.
Right.
And they're just like, we have this one thing and we're going to try to accomplish it. They have probably a bigger chance of succeeding at that one thing.
Right. Hey, is it time for the second commercial break? I think. Yeah, sure. Hey, let me tell you about one thing that also has incredible focus. That is, who's the second sponsor? Is it MailChimp? Oh, that makes my life really easy. Hey, MailChimp. What a great product. I use it, and like all the programs here and all the partners we have, I only like to talk about things that I actually use. It makes my life super easy, and MailChimp is one of those amazing products. They've reached 1 million users, and the free product is always free with 2,000 subscribers and 12,000 emails per month. When you get an email from me in the Jason Nation email newsletter, 25,000 people on that or so, I hit the publish key. It gets out in just minutes. People start responding. And I can tell you, having used a half dozen other providers over the last decade for email, it's not like that at other places. They queue you up. You have to wait. Things bounce. You get trapped in spam filters. The 1 or 2 or 3 times somebody has gotten trapped in a spam filter when I've sent something through MailChimp, they get on it and they figure out what it is. And they have all these great tools for saying, if you use this word or use this URL shortener, that is going to keep people that's going to set off the spam filters at Yahoo or Google or this place. You might want to change that. And that kind of advice and those kind of issues are a moving target. They're constantly moving targets, and you don't want to lose your ability to communicate with your members of your startup or your audience, whatever it is. And MailChimp is just awesome. Go try it. And hey, if you're a fan of the show, say thank you at MailChimp for sponsoring This Week in Startups. Thank you so much, MailChimp. Use MailChimp. No? Have you ever used it, MailChimp?
Let's say yes.
No, you don't have to say
yes. No, I haven't. You
gotta build the Erik Lanigan.
I know. I gotta start.
Email list. I know you're capturing those.
I know you're real into the email newsletter. I should start doing something like that.
How many social networks have you used over the last 5 years?
Like 3.
Yeah, exactly. How many email addresses have you had?
A lot.
You've had a lot of different email addresses?
Well, yeah, because I'm kind of weird. I have like 7 active right now.
Oh, but you have one that's your like
one primary, yeah.
Yeah, you have your one primary, and you're gonna have that for life.
Yeah,
and that's why email is so important. And the startups who use it actually do really well. Okay, give us another story.
Okay, well, right before we did that, you guys had mentioned an interesting phrase. You said startups that are basically just features that have sort of, you can look at them and say, well, they obviously have yet to be acquired by Facebook or by Yahoo or some other company. I'm curious, just this is in the news, is not on the rundown, but what do you guys think about that? When you see a company like that, what do you say to them? Do you encourage them to be a feature and be sold, or do you say you need to go back to the drawing board and make a product here? And then you can tie that into Zynga bought 4 new startups that do primarily mobile gaming as opposed to Facebook gaming.
Yeah.
And then Facebook rolled out like 60 new apps of like all kinds of new floods of little things that are going to be tweeting stuff and alerting people about their status.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think? Features?
Well, sometimes I advise them to be parasitical, which is, go to Facebook, build something that's, rides off their success, like
right.
the PayPal to the eBay,
right.
to the Zynga, to the Facebook,
right.
And try to build something and then step away so that you can be your own business at that point. So if you truly are a feature, then why don't you use Facebook and not try to compete directly against them?
Right.
So that way you can grow. And, but, if that's not a possibility, then yeah, sometimes I tell them you need to step back and maybe potentially rethink your product. Or realize that you could be crushed. I've had several startups that I've invested in that have been crushed for that very reason.
I'm curious, are there any warning flags that you see? Like you say, well, that's clearly a feature. That's not going to have legs on its own.
You just have to imagine, using the product and saying, what if Google, Facebook, whatever, just added this feature would work? And usually it's yes. It's just whether or not it's in their roadmap and whether or not they care. They might not care.
Sometimes those big companies, I know, they will add a feature because they think, oh, this is a buzzy feature of the moment, like check-ins or something. But then they stop working on the problem.
Right.
And so they're like, oh, everybody seems to be buzzing about this. We need to have it.
And then they stop working on the problem, and then it doesn't have traction anymore.
Right.
So they think it's not going to work.
Right.
And so that's the focus thing.
Yeah. And that's where the big companies sort of make the huge mistake of, a lot of times, if there is a market there, it might take 2, 3, 4 years of focus and meditating on the problem and existing in the problem for a while. And a lot of times what I'll tell people is, this feels like it's just a feature, but you might be the person who makes it so much better than them that it gets people's attention. But I know for myself, when looking at this feature, I wouldn't leave the product to go use this. So search is the perfect example. A lot of people have come up with really clever little ideas and little spins on search and tried to do, there were 25 companies in social search before Google launched Google Plus search, whatever, your search your friends stuff. And Legit, I think, was one where you would index all of your stuff, and you could have like a little search engine of just all of Erik's stuff on the web, your Flickr, your blog, etc. And it was never enough that people could actually remember it enough, and it was so amazing that you would have a net promoter score where you would tell other people about it. So that, for me, those are big tests. Like Foursquare and Gowalla actually were so unique and well designed, and had their own communities. Instagram, Path, a lot of these products that have broken out in areas where there's massive competition. It seems like they really persisted. I mean, Path persisted, and Instagram had unique features, and they've meditated on the problem of mobile, photo sharing. Who would ever thought mobile photo sharing
Instagram is the only app that's ever entered my dreams.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
I dream about it. I dream about taking pictures and writing the little captions.
Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's very hard. I think it's very hard as an angel investor to give people that news, because what if I'm always very concerned about, I don't know if you have this experience.
What if you're wrong?
Well, if you're wrong and, hey, I lost the money that I could have made investing in them, whatever. Okay, I passed on it. But then what if you actually dissuade them and they could have pursued it to greatness? I didn't think YouTube was going to work. I was like, well, this is going to obviously get sued to oblivion.
Yeah, I thought it was a huge failure. I was like, it's not going to work.
Right.
Yeah.
This can't possibly work, and
they're going to run out of money.
They're going to run out of money. How do you pay for all the payments? It's free? Free serving a video? I mean, and so a lot of times it takes a certain blindness and you can almost say naivete, stubbornness. It's some combination of delusional, maybe is the word, where I don't care that
you most likely think you're a fool then. You'd probably give them that advice and they'd be like, Jason's a fool.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to keep going.
And you know what? It's the people who will persist through some of those objections who actually figure it out. And that's why I think you have to pick a project that you're passionate about, because you will get to those points where you're like, oh God, nobody likes my project. I just had two former employees who had really wanted to get into one of the incubators. They had two different ideas they're working on. One people liked, one nobody liked but them. And 6 of the incubators they went to, one of which I'm on the board of, like I'm one of the advisors to, whatever, and I sort of get a vote, not like a literal vote, but I get a say. They didn't get accepted to any of them. It was 0 for 6, and they had my recommendation to all of them and a really well-designed product. And they said, what do we take from this? I said, well, 6 groups of really smart people who have been entrusted with money told you your product's no good and not good enough to get into their incubators. And there's 6 incubators in LA fighting for a small number of startups. So it's really bad news, but they could all be wrong. They could absolutely all be wrong, and you could be right. And they just can't see it, and you have to prove it to them. But I mean, it's tough to give people...
It is tough. It is tough.
That news. How do you say no to people? You say it's not a fit? What do you say?
I try to be honest.
Yeah.
That's somebody wise once told me the trouble you don't get into is the trouble you don't have to get out of. So I just tell them the truth. I am not interested. It's not a fit. Most of the time, a lot of the pitches I have are just not in our sweet spot.
Right.
And that makes it easy. I get a pitch and I say, it's not something that we invest in. I tend to only like to invest in things that I can provide value. So if I can't actually get into it, would I use this product? What can I see other people using this product?
Right.
I'm not going to invest in it.
Yeah, that makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So
that way it's a me thing. It's not a them
Yeah,
thing.
Exactly. I think that you're going to make somebody really happy in life.
Yeah.
Just not me.
It's not for me.
Exactly. So something that VCs often deal with is the noise of constant just company after company saying we've got this, we've got that, and users are dealing with that too.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the noise factor? Facebook now announced 60 new timeline apps are going to have Ticketmaster, Pinterest, Rotten Tomato, GoBot, TripAdvisor, and others, RDO, Netflix. It's all going to be just constantly telling everybody what you're doing, what you're watching, what you bought, who you're looking at right now.
Yeah.
Do people actually want to see this, or is this sort of I'm a little pessimistic about this. I think that when the dust settles, we're going to be looking at much more like Facebook circa 2005 as a simple social network, doesn't have all this noise. But what do you guys think?
I think people will use it. I've actually seen, I don't know if you have timeline turned on, but I have it turned on. Mm-hmm. And I share all sorts of things I don't think people would be interested in. But for example, The other day I ate at some delivery service, eat24hours.com
Yeah.
or something like that. Posted it to my wall just, to see what would happen. And the 3 other people were like, oh, I'm going to try that service out. I'm going to give it a try. So I do think that, personal endorsement of products and movies and things that you share in your timeline, they actually matter.
Now, what about this, though? What about things that you purposefully endorse because you say, this is great, I want to recommend this, as opposed to like an automated, I'm listening to this, even though you may hate that, or I'm watching this movie, and you may think horribly of it.
People are wise to that, right? Don't you think?
I think
to give
so,
people
yeah.
some credit for that. I think you can tell when someone's BSing.
I just find it's the area on the top right of the page where like things are just flying by, and I don't look at it. It's just like I don't have that much free time to go look at that sort of auto sharing, and that's what we're talking about. Like if I
tune it out.
Yeah, the auto sharing thing just goes too fast, and it feels, I think, icky to people. Like, I don't know that I want to be sharing all that. And that's why they settled that huge Beacon lawsuit. So this Beacon 2.0, it's 100% opt-in, which is great. I don't know if everybody understands when they turn it on exactly what it means, but it feels like it's bad enough that people check in and share every single check-in. Some people do that. Now, I don't share every check-in. I'm like, I'll just share this with the Foursquare community. I'm not going to post it to everywhere that I am at the dog park I go to every day.
Because everyone must know that.
Right, exactly. And so I think we're starting to get to that point. And Facebook feels less and less relevant because there's so much noise in there and not enough good stuff. And that's why I love Path. If I have a choice to, I'll open up Path 3-4 times a day, and I'll open up Facebook 3 or 4 times a week. I don't understand these people who just live in Facebook. I think they're wasting their lives. Like, there's so much other good stuff going on in the world. To sit there with your Facebook open all day long and be looking at the minutia of even your friends' lives. It's all so generic now. It's nothing's personal. Everything is being shared with everybody.
It's like reality television now. I think people are sitting there and they're just like, what are all these people doing?
I know, it's like it's kind of like an icky stalker kind of a thing, which is sort of how it started, right? Like Zuck was trying to meet girls or whatever, and wanted to know was afraid to ask them, like, do you have a boyfriend? Are you married? What's the story? So he just came up with a product that he didn't have to ask girls what their status was, right? And it just feels too invasive. I think I'm with you. I think it's too much. Yeah,
the dust will settle and all this stuff will eventually die down. But, one of the questions that we did skip was Google+. They keep innovating. They keep coming out with stuff. Their numbers aren't getting that much better. People aren't going to that.
90 million uniques. I mean, that's pretty significant.
Still, though, it's mostly like, tech geeky people who like Google more than they like the Facebook noise and who aren't afraid to leave
like all products. I mean, the people said the same thing about Facebook when it came out and everybody was on MySpace. It was like, oh, that's just for geeky people in San Francisco. I mean, that was the Facebook phenomenon for the first 6 months, a year of when they got out of education. It's just like, oh, that's San Francisco people.
And yet, wasn't the thing that attracted people away from MySpace to Facebook was the clean design, the lack of noise, the fact that it was verified identities, it was just your friends, and it wasn't all these ads and companies trying to constantly spamming you with stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't GeoCities 2.0.
Yeah.
I wonder how much time people getting paid to work at companies are spending on Facebook.
Oh,
10%?
Astronomical.
20% of the time?
I'm sure a lot. And
30%?
I think some companies are actually starting to install apps on laptops and on desktops to monitor your usage of various different parts of the web.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to start seeing like exactly how much time are people spending on Twitter.
There
Facebook.
was a cool product that would, through your firewall, and obviously people know how to get through routers now with, VPNs or whatever. And if you went to your developers and were like, you're going to, I would never go to people on my team and be like, oh my God, we're going to monitor all your Facebook usage. I sort of just put out there all usage on the network is monitored by some box, and if we needed to look at it, we would. If somebody did something really stupid.
Have you seen that people are opting in to monitor their own usage?
Yeah, and that's so they can manage their time.
Yeah, so they can manage their time because some people are like, I don't know where my time is going. So
right, and it tells you
it gives you a report at the end. They're like, you spend this much time on email, you spend this much time on Facebook.
That's the thing that I think the self-monitoring,
personal auditing kind of.
It is because you know what you don't realize how much time you're reading Hacker News, how much time you're doing this. I think that's why at startup companies, everybody should work out in the open, monitors out. Whenever anybody wants an office, and they give me all the reasons why they want an office. I need quiet to concentrate or whatever. It's like, you're not a startup person. At AOL, everybody was in offices hiding so that they could keep their high salaries and not actually do any work and be on Facebook all day long.
And no one would see that they're not doing any work.
And nobody would see that. I have my monitor out. you know, like I'm sitting out there and like, yeah, sometimes at work I'll go on Amazon and buy something, you know, or that I need, or I'll check the movie times. Like there's a reasonable amount of that you should do at work since the line is blurring. But I think people are spending way too much time at work reading Gawker, TMZ,
looking at
doing
Pinterest.
Facebook, looking at Pinterest. Like we would have another, if 10% of people's time, what percentage is it? 10%? 20%? That people are goofing off at work? 20%?
I think it's more.
You think it's more than 20?
I think sadly, I think it's more. And I think a true test of this is to sit down with an employee and ask them how much they know about any given thing.
Yeah.
You know, and if they're like, oh, this is going on and that's going on and this person is this and that person's influential in the community.
They seem a little too informed.
A little too informed. You're like, okay.
You know too much about what's going on.
Too
Right.
much.
Yeah. If 20% is probably a very reasonable number of like people's time at work. Does that mean companies need 10% less people? 15%? Like, does it? Okay, let's say it's not a perfect correlation. Like, if people spend 20% of the time, they don't. Doesn't mean they need 20% less people. But if it's 10% less people at your company, what would employment be? Unemployment would be really 20% in the United States. We could get rid of 10% of the people working at companies, and those companies would see absolutely no difference.
Often that's the case. Often you see companies are far more productive once they have a layoff.
Yeah, they get rid of 10%.
Yeah, get rid of 10%,
The bottom
and then
10%.
suddenly they're, you know, it's not even about revenues, you know,
Yeah.
how that helps the revenues.
People start watching their backs, basically.
They start working.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you get that. The people 90% who are still there work harder, but those 10% were probably distracting the top 50% who are trying to focus.
Who are
And
the
those people are
goof-offs.
like, hey, check this out on
Check out
Pinterest.
Exactly. You got to
You know?
see this YouTube video.
It's very hard to understand.
Identify the people whose cubicles and desks people are crowding around to watch videos, and then get rid of that person.
We're in a permanent employment reset, I think, and I think that there's a lot of people in the employment pool who are ducking their heads, keeping their jobs, and like, you know, companies don't want to fire more people. So many people have been laid off over the last couple of years, but my gosh, Facebook has got to be just eating so much of the productivity of the United States and the world.
I think so. Yeah.
I think that was what was good about the Wednesday. Like, I was like, I don't have to read 5 Wikipedia pages today. Thank God. I think like every Friday we should turn off Wikipedia. Just like every maybe all weekend, like just turn off Wikipedia for the weekend or something. And then it just saves everybody all that time they go out to, let's do the next story.
Sort of voluntary blackouts. Yeah, exactly.
Well, people actually now some people are doing this. Like, I guess somewhere in South America they were saying that using your BlackBerry off hours or responding to email was on the clock, and you know employees were required to pay overtime if somebody checked their email. And that some companies was it Volkswagen was saying they were going to turn off emails during off hours, like just turn off the email server.
That's just ridiculous.
Oh.
Yeah, can you imagine?
It's
Like
just ridiculous.
people at Toyota are like, really? Awesome. Thank you for the market share. Really? You're not going to respond at night or the weekends when the plant shuts down or
We'll
something's
take that
wong?
business.
We'll take it. Absolutely.
Wow.
Okay, let's do another story.
So Yahoo, what do you guys think about Yahoo? They're freezing hiring. They're thinking about layoffs. They're looking at even more drastic staff cuts. I mean, what do you think is the direction? Jerry Yang is gone now. He left last week. What do you think? Have you guys talked yet on this show about why you think Jerry Yang has departed? And what do you think about this new CEO? He seems to be sort of just a caretaker for what is now a media holdings company.
Yeah.
Is that how you would describe it?
I think they have to sell off all the Asian assets first and give all that money to the shareholders. So the shareholders want that money.
Now, why is that? Because aren't those assets doing very well? I would.
They are, but Yahoo is designed to be a company that doesn't benefit from its investments in other companies. It's not like a venture business or a private equity firm itself. Like that's not their speciality. If it was, then they should be investing in more companies and duplicating that success and taking the profits from those investments which have now matured and then investing them in the next round of. But that's not their skill set. They just basically got lucky with those deals. Good timing. It was very savvy to do them, but and they leveraged their growth and their brand in Japan, et cetera. Fantastic, but they should just take that money off the table, give it to the shareholders, and then start building a product that people love. I mean,
and what products do they build? Because it kind of seems like they just scoop up ones that they like, and then they just kind of let them languish and rot on the vine. And I mean, what is Yahoo's core market now? It's not even search. Search is farmed out to Bing.
Display advertising, on content. I mean, it's basically what it is. As Jim Lanzone said, it's a portal, and that's not a bad thing. People like a portal. I can go there and get anything: finance, news, sports. Great.
There's still a lot of people using their email. And I think email is one of the things they have not monetized well.
Yeah.
What
a great product. Their email product was the state of the art. It was Gmail for a while, and it's gotten better, actually, and people still don't seem to give it up.
So if Yahoo is the portal, or tries to be portal, and Facebook is the world's portal, everyone's spending all their time there.
Yeah.
What chance does Yahoo have to compete with Facebook? Couldn't they just overtake them overnight if all they have is that eyeballs go there first?
I think a lot of people use both. I mean, people, don't get news from Facebook. It's not like you can say, like, there's a sports tab or a parenting tab.
There could be very soon. I mean,
there could
there's
be,
always that possibility.
but I don't think that they want to. I don't think that Facebook wants the distraction of doing content. I think it's just easier for them to let people share content and sort of pivot off of it inside of their system. Like, yeah, sure, share a story inside of it. If Facebook was smart, I think they would allow people to share revenue on the pages they create inside of Facebook. Then you would have content.
Say that again?
Share revenue. So if I'm the New York Times, and I have a New York Times page, right, and people like the New York Times page on Facebook, but like I don't know what the point of that is. Like, okay, I've shown I like it, great, but what if, the entire archive of the New York Times was available inside of Facebook, and you could share a story, and when you share a story, instead of it just being one sentence, it was, 3 paragraphs in your feed, or you could comment on it, never leave Facebook, and they gave that person 70% of the advertising on that page view inside of Facebook.
As sort of like paying the person to be a content evangelist, sort of like to.
Yeah,
it's not that person's
not the user.
Oh,
New York Times.
Oh, okay.
So instead of people just sharing the links, why not put the whole article in there and just share revenue? Or if Lady Gaga has a page inside of YouTube, right, and she puts her content on YouTube, she gets 70-80% of that revenue probably. Mm-hmm. Those people have like more private deals. I mean, I think the rack rate is 55% to partners and 45% to YouTube. Why doesn't Facebook share revenue like that? And if they did, wouldn't content providers be knocking their door down? I mean, that's what Yahoo does. That's what Google does.
So Yahoo does share the revenue.
Yeah, they'll license content. I mean, you can you can read the whole AP story there. I'm assuming they're paying the AP for that, not stealing it. No, I know they are. So
why Jerry Yang stepped down? Just because he didn't want to be part of just a soulless web portal that doesn't really know a direction that it's going in, or did the people there just not like him? Is it a protest on his part?
I mean, I can only speak to why I would step down, and I would think so. I think it's really tough to see something that you built turn into what it's become, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I don't know for sure, and I haven't talked to him or anything, but I think it's probably pretty rough to have everybody sort of look at you and say, you blew the Microsoft deal. We could have all cashed in our Yahoo chips at $45 a share instead of whatever it's at now, $15, $16. So you cost us 3 times our money. If you're a hedge fund manager or whatever, or some money manager put $1 billion in, now it's $350 million. You're pretty upset at Jerry Yang.
So would you say that for someone like Jerry Yang, who obviously started Yahoo, you could say he's a startup guy, right?
Yeah, he was.
Is Yahoo a company for startup type individuals? It seems like it would not be.
No, it's definitely not. And I think he should. From what I understand, he's a great golf player. So I think go play golf for a year and then angel invest. Literally, he would
give back.
Yeah, just literally.
What kept
him
there so long?
Well, I mean, if you created one of the top 5 brands that still has hundreds of millions of people using the service on a global basis, it's your baby. I mean, why would you leave?
You probably hoped that he could turn it around, make it breathe new life into it, and got too much opposition, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I don't know that he is the ultimate product guy. And I think that in order for a company like that to have a true turnaround, you need to have a really, really, really aggressive, awesome product person. And AOL and Yahoo, have been run by, and even Microsoft to a certain extent, all those companies have been run by some combination of salespeople or professional managers. And when you have that, it's very hard to break out in a competitive landscape against Larry Page, who's a product guy, Zuckerberg, who's a product guy.
So what do you think? What do you guys see as a direction for Yahoo? Like, what will they do to compete, and who are they competing with anymore? Just
it's an ad network. It's a big content display ad network, and it could get sold for parts. I mean, right now they're going to shed the Asian assets, but then it's completely possible that you'll start seeing Right Media or Flickr, other pieces just be sold off like Delicious was, and that might be a smart strategy. And then just focus on, as Larry Page is doing, more wood behind fewer arrows.
And speaking of content and media startups, looks like the Huffington Post is going to launch a 24-hour streaming network designed to compete sort of with CNN with all types of news. They haven't officially announced anything, but they've been dropping numerous hints. What do you guys think of that?
I told Ariana to do this like 2 years ago.
I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she's like one of the best guests on all these news programs, and I was like, why don't you have a studio? Because, you can't write all these articles. You're so busy and whatever. And why don't you just, every time you have all these famous people over your house, just pull them into the studio and
well leverage those.
She's like, do you think that would be a good idea? Yeah. I'm like, you're like a force. Like, you could have like every day at your house in Brentwood, you could just have people build a studio here and just have yeah, I'm thinking of that's a good idea.
So, do you think will it launch as a 24-hour network? Is that even possible?
I don't think that. No way. It's 24-hour. No, that's not possible. That's just too big of an investment. But it could certainly be on from whatever 8 in the morning till 5 o'clock. I mean, that's not. I mean, look at CNET. It started as a cable network. You could easily produce shows of this quality, which is intelligent people in a room talking. Now, will it have the polish of CNN, where every moment is perfectly scripted, perfectly timed, and they move everything every 3 minutes along? Will there be some ums and ahs and, pauses? They're going to create a web network, which is a little bit different. Usually that relies more on authenticity and knowledgeable people, but less polished people. Right, like so,
and smaller staff. So there's less people to run every little thing. So if one thing,
I mean, listen, if right now all of a sudden your microphone went down, we're like, oh, Eric's microphone's down. Okay, let's fix it. Like on CNN,
it's like, go to break.
Yeah, everybody's freaking out. Oh my God, our microphone's down. But the web audience is going to be pretty resilient about that. But yeah, it's obviously the way to go because the advertisers really want video content. And can you imagine like the short clips that would come from Ariana, interviewing people all day long, just short clips from all those people? Put them on YouTube. And AOL has a lot of video assets. And video pays $30, $40 CPMs, And you have politics coming up with the election.
For the election, I think this is good timing.
Maybe they just do it for the election. If they just did it for the election, it would be gangbusters. That's probably what they're going to do.
What is
floated for the election? That's exactly what's happening. Yeah.
Do you know what
the timing is just perfect?
And I'm curious, what from an advertiser's perspective, what is the economics of that? Are they like people need more places to see news, or is it that they know that it's such a trusted brand already? They're on the HuffPost reading the article, so they may as well click a video link. Or are they really saying
it could be It could be actual political ads for candidates. Oh, because there's a huge amount of money being spent. And if you could say, hey, the Huffington Post gets this, voting audience who's very influential, if you're Newt Gingrich or you're Obama, like you got to spend that money somewhere. Why not spend it on the place where all the most rabid customers are? And they can click and go do something. I mean, that's the big difference between TV. You're watching CNN, you throw an ad up, okay, great, I have to remember that, and maybe I hit the mute key or fast forward, and I'm 15 minutes behind on my TiVo. Online.
With an interactive ad, you can have the donate button right there, the
donate
follow button or whatever you want.
Exactly. Follow, donate, blog, retweet. I mean, it's going to be much more efficient. And clearly, there's a market between what Leo's doing with This Week in Tech and what's going on here at CNET, what's going on at Revision 3, what's going on at Maker Studios, what's going on at Machinima. There is a market for web-based, mobile-based content that doesn't go on to TV. I mean, CBS would not have bought CNET if that was not the case. There's a huge market right now. And advertisers I think they love the idea that there could be, you can capture somebody's email. It just takes time for those TV, the large amount of people you can capture on TV is just not, it doesn't exist on the web yet. But YouTube's trying. Can I reach 1 million people right now? I don't know.
Yeah. How are we on time? Or do we have another ad?
We're done.
We're done. Okay.
Right, we're an hour. What's the time?
Yeah, we're a little over.
I usually have a clock. We're a little over an hour?
Yeah.
Hey, Erik, great job reading the news. Cyan, if people want to pitch you on their startup company, what do? They go through AngelList?
I prefer AngelList.
You do?
Yeah, I do prefer AngelList. But I'm easy to find on the internet.
Pretty
I'm
easy.
Everywhere. I'm on Facebook, Twitter. My email is very easy to guess.
Yeah, and if they're not smart enough to do that,
yeah, exactly.
Then you got a problem. An angel list has really impressed you, as it has me, I guess?
I like it a lot. You know, I did get a lot of deals through you and through the Open Angel Forum.
Yeah.
And I've been very pleased with many of them. And Angel List has actually been really great. One reason is you can look at other people who are investing, and you can follow their investments, and and you can anything pops up.
It's almost like an Open Angel Forum, like on the web.
Correct.
Yeah, it's interesting. Open Angel Forum in this town in New York. The last year, we really haven't been able to have them because anytime we would get people who needed to raise money, they would be closed before the event 2 weeks later. Right. But in other markets, Open Angel Forum is doing great. You know, Boulder and DC and other places where the market isn't as on fire.
It's tough to get into deals right now. I've seen many deals just fly by, you know, because they close in a few days. It's done. Yeah,
and it seems like AngelList is having a huge impact on that. Like I was just on AngelList, and a notable entrepreneur had a Newco. Did you see Newco without a name? So I guess I don't know. I can tell if it's. I think I can tell if it's public or not if I type in angel.co/. Let's see. Because I'm not logged in, it shouldn't. Yep, there it is. Okay, so there's a Newco on there, and all it says, I'm not logged in, so anybody can see this. It's public information. I'm not leaking any information here, just to be clear. But this is Newco, Addressing the $15 Trillion Business Market by Gil Pacino, who was the guy who was on at Wikia, Jimmy Wells's wiki company, and 341 followers, and just 21 comments, and everybody going crazy. Just immediately, like in one day, I had 5 or 6 people tell me about this, and I'm like, okay, I'll go hear about it, sure. But it's like instant. And if 100 angels hear about something and there's room for 10, oversubscribed instantly.
Yeah.
What do you think of this crowdfunding stuff? Do you think that's going to happen? Everybody, you know, like the crowdfunding, anybody can put $10,000 or up to $1,000, like sort of like Kickstarter, but you get equity.
Well, as long as you get equity, then then that's great. I mean, that's always been my biggest problem with Kickstarter. I love Kickstarter.
Right.
But you don't get anything other than maybe a lamp or a book.
Yeah.
You know, and I want to actually invest in some of those ventures.
Why don't we have that yet? Why hasn't anyone made that? Is it a
no,
legal
it's
barrier?
illegal. Yeah, it's a legal barrier. There's a crowdfunding bill. There's crowdfunding bills right now going through the Senate and Congress or whatever, and they seem to be stuck. But essentially, because people lost so much money investing in mines after the Depression, now you have to be an accredited investor, which means you have to have a net worth over $2 or $3 million.
Which I think is total BS.
Which is ridiculous. It's like
investing in what? In mines?
Yeah,
like
back in the day, people,
am I hearing you right?
Exactly. Back after the Depression, people would, walk around town and say, "Would you like to buy stocks in this gold mine in California?"
Really?
And some grandma would be like, "Yeah, I'll buy 10,000 shares," and that it is a mine, and there might be gold there, and they, scooped the shovel 3 times, took your money, and that's it, and they paid themselves, and
Wow.
So they said, you know what, poor people, middle class people can't invest in companies because they're too dumb.
They can't make decisions for themselves.
They can't make decisions for them. They can't go and put $10,000. They can lose $10,000 playing blackjack in 1 hour in Vegas, but they can't do it anywhere else. And so this crowdfunding stuff, I think that's where AngelList is going to go. I think AngelList will start a lot, or Kickstarter.
I hope it becomes legal, and I think it'll be huge. I think if you left Facebook, and let's say you only left with 100, 200 grand or Zynga, why can't you invest that money? Why do you have to go to the public markets? I mean, that's just ridiculous that you wouldn't be able to invest in startups.
Yeah, and the public markets seem to be, by the time something gets to the public market, it's had all the value has been realized. So when Facebook gets to the public market, in that case, yes, it may go up a little bit. But I mean, if you look at Zynga and LinkedIn, they didn't really have these huge pops when they went public. Actually, maybe LinkedIn did, but Zynga didn't. And most of the other ones that have come out have already basically been, their valuations have been fully baked. And I think Zynga shares were trading at $14 before it went public, and now it went public at 10, and now it's 9. And it's still a great company, but I think most of the money gets sucked out in second market, basically. Second market is where the actual price gets set. Hey, Erik, great job, and welcome back to the airwaves, and hopefully you can do it again next week when I'm here.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Hey, thank you to all my friends at CNET. Thank you, Stephen, for doing a great job, and we'll see you next time on This Week in Startups. Yeah.